Hello everyone. I've mentioned in a few videos the health issues that I've recently been going through, so I wanted to take a moment to give a quick update while my cat comes to visit. And as well as an update, I want to give an explanation. See, a while back I did a video I called Carbs Are Poison, and I just want to let you know I still stand by that video, but I haven't been living by that video. And why is that, you may wonder? Well, it all boils down to this wonderful healthcare system we have. And just to know, if you're from another country where you have so-called free healthcare, this actually still applies to you, but I'll get to that in a bit. First, the problem. I have type 2 diabetes, and I had ended up with blisters on my feet that would not heal. Hello, Rascal. So the blisters on my feet got so bad I had to have surgery, and there was some doubt as to whether I would be able to keep my feet. But the infection hadn't spread to the bone, and the surgeon I had was simply amazing. She not only saved my feet, but she also functioned as the doctor who oversaw the healing of my feet, where I would go in to get them checked on every couple of weeks. So when I say the problem boils down to the healthcare system, I want to be clear. It was not the surgeon's fault on this. She did everything right. The problem was the healthcare providers who did the dressing changes. See, one of the problems I ran into was that I needed compression bandages because I was having a lot of swelling. It later turned out that a great deal of this swelling was caused by a reaction to other medication I had been given. Now, how bad was it? Well, I gained almost 50 pounds between February and June of 2021. My right foot had healed in May, and the swelling reopened that wound. This is part of why last year they thought I might have heart failure. But after stopping the medication and getting a diuretic, I lost that 50 pounds by the end of last year. It was only then, in December of 2021, that my right foot finally healed again. And it wasn't until April of this year that my left foot was healed as well. My surgery was in November of 2020, so that means it took nearly 18 months for my feet to heal. But while you may be thinking that the medication side effect is the culprit I'm pointing my finger at when I'm critical of the healthcare system, no. My regular doctor was trying to find a combination of medication that worked for me, and we knew it was a potential side effect that swelling could result. But we didn't know what would happen until after I took it. That happens. We adjusted as soon as we saw the results, but it just took forever for the swelling to go back down. This was a risk I knew of in advance, and I was prepared to test out this when the doctor prescribed the medication. So what am I referring to? Well, as you may have guessed from my introduction, it has to do with my diet. See, when I first got home health care to change the dressings, they also did a lot of other medical services as part of a daily checkup kind of thing. I had my blood pressure monitored, my weight monitored, my blood sugars were taken. And blood sugar is very important because when you're healing from trauma, it's difficult to keep blood sugars low. My blood sugars had inched back up to around the 200 mark, and the surgeon told me you have to keep blood sugars low. If they're above 150, your healing is going to take forever. And if they're above 200, it will be actively causing damage to your body. So I was having trouble with the blood sugars at first, and after I got back from the hospital, it was just taking forever to get them back down. And the nurses had been noting my levels and all of that fun stuff. So I remember very clearly the day that I was looking at my blood sugar test, and it was 109. And it was the first time I'd gotten down to that level since the surgery. And the visiting nurse asked me how I was able to do it. The previous numbers had all been around 200. Well, my mistake was answering her honestly. I said, yesterday I fasted, and today I've only eaten meat. At which point she went apoplectic. You can't ever do that. You're going to starve yourself. You have to eat carbs or you can't heal. And at this point, she pulled out the big guns. She told me, if you don't eat the meal plan our nutritionist has, we will declare you medically non-compliant. You will no longer get any healthcare visits from us, and your insurance will not pay for a replacement since you lost it due to your own non-compliance. So I couldn't change my own bandages. They were compression bandages, and if you do those wrong, you can actually injure yourself. And it was too expensive to try to go to the clinic to have them change it for me, especially since I would have to pay out of pocket for it when insurance wouldn't cover it. So I did what they demanded and ate their diet. Problem is, their dietary requirement was that for a man your size, you should have a cat on your shoulder, apparently. Hello. So as you can tell, I just we'll just have him here because he just wants the attention. So again, I had to take their dietary plan. And their dietary plan was that for a man my size, I need to eat 220 grams of carbs per day. So let me tell you what happened as a result of me eating that diet. You remember that 109 sugar measurement I had? Kiss it goodbye. I was lucky to get my blood sugars under 250. I'd only been prescribed metformin before this, but now I had full doses of Farxiga and Rybelsus. Rybelsus was the worst because of the constant gastrointestinal issues that I ended up with. There were several mornings I couldn't keep any of my other medication down. I just vomited it right back up. And I won't describe the other end of things. A nurse even later told me that she saw a commercial for Rybelsus, and when they started listing all the side effects, she was like, hey, that's everything Peter has. And even with all of that medication, my A1C hit 12. That's right, 12. So my doctor put me on Lantus injections, which is one of the forms of insulin, and I had to keep boosting the dose. My next doctor's visit, my A1C was unmeasurable. That's a fun word to hear. That means it's too high for their machine to read it. So they don't even know what my A1C was at that point. I actually had to go and get a pancreatic function test done so they can make sure my pancreas was still making insulin at this point. I was finally free from my captivity of the threat of canceled insurance, forcing me to eat literal poison that I knew was poison, did not want to eat, but was still forced to consume in April of this year. But of course, by then, I had developed a carb addiction once more. So it took me from April until July to finally wean myself off of the carb. And beginning this month, I actually started on carnivore again. Not only that, but each week I do about a 36-hour-long fast. Usually it starts on Saturdays. It started the first week just because after eating a fatty meal for lunch, I didn't want to eat supper. And the next day I didn't feel like breakfast. So I kept not eating since I wasn't hungry. And suddenly it was the next day. And I finally felt hungry, so I ate breakfast then. That is impossible to do when you're stuck on a carb diet. More specifically than a carnivore diet, I'm actually doing the BBB&E diet, which is the beef, butter, bacon, and eggs diet. The only exception to that is that I do have cheese that I needed to finish up, so I mix that in with my beef. And I usually season steak when I have steak specifically with garlic cloves that I chop up and put in the butter. So I'm looking forward to my next blood tests, which are scheduled for next month, because I know they will show lots of improvement. Even though I don't have the full 90 days taken that you need to go through before all your blood cells are replaced. Anyway, how do I know that my levels are going to be good? Well, first of all, I've had this cat talk to me. No. But I've had people make comments to me. See, I do a lot of video conferencing for work, and I've had several people actually tell me that I look thinner now. I actually weigh the same as I did at the beginning of July, but I can feel, especially around my face, when I trim up my beard, my facial bone structure is more pronounced. I can actually feel the bones more. My gut is lessening as well, and I'm converting fat to muscle, which is why my weight hasn't changed actually. My body composition certainly is changing. And how much has it changed? Well, I have a rowing machine. I first got really into rowing back in 2017 when I was trying to self-soothe from my divorce by throwing myself 100% into exercise full-time. I actually had a discussion with myself where I said, I need something, anything to help with the pain, but I know that this pain's not going to last forever. Eventually I'll recover. And I'm going to need to choose something that's not going to leave me worse off than before. I don't want to become addicted to drugs. I don't want to become an alcoholic. So what did I have left? Well, exercise is a good way. You get the endorphins from the exercise, but not only that, when you work out, it hurts. And so I finally was able to kind of understand the people who have the psychological issues where they start cutting. I didn't ever have it to that extent, but it made sense to me when I was working out because the pain, the physical pain finally matched the emotional pain that I was feeling. And that actually does make your brain feel more like you're in the right spot. So I get that now. I do understand that. I recommend if you're tempted to ever do cutting, try working out on a rowing machine for an hour instead. I guarantee that will hurt a lot worse. And you'll feel better in the end because you'll still get the endorphins. So anyway, As you can kind of tell from that, I threw myself into rowing way too hard. By the end of the first month of having the machine, I was doing 10K basically every single day. I would take a few days here and there off, but in March of 2017, I rode for 100 kilometers. Wait, did I say 100? I meant 100,000 kilometers. I did 5 half marathons that month, including 3 in a row, just 3 consecutive days doing a half marathon at a time. I tried to do a full marathon, but I only made it to 32K. I think it was 32 or 34, somewhere in there, before I hit that wall and just didn't have anything left anymore. And that's also because I did it at the end of March after I'd done all these other several 100,000, well, not 100,000 by that point, but several thousand kilometers up till then. I think during that year, the first 3 months of the year, I ended up with 300K total on that machine. Anyway, not a huge deal, except that after that month of March, when April came around, I was so burned out on rowing that I was like, I'm not even going to touch the machine ever again. And for the next 4 years, I didn't. So I only started using the rowing machine again when I started recovering from surgery, because my wounds were on the top of my feet and the foot straps on the machine didn't touch over that area. So I could use it for the physical therapy and the exercise. So why do I bring all of that up? Well, because this morning I woke up way too early. I don't know why, except that I was just full of energy. I woke up, I had tons of energy. I was like, I cannot lay in bed anymore. And it's like 5:30 in the morning. So I jumped up, got on my rowing machine and was like, let's just do a row. And for the first time in 5 years, I did a 10K session on my rowing machine. Now I've been doing 1K fairly consistently off and on for a week, but I did a full 10K. And to be completely fair, the first 6 kilometers were very, very straightforward. And the first 3 kilometers, I felt like I was just warming up. But the last 2 were extremely brutal. And had I not just decided mentally that I was going to make it to 10K, I would have quit after about 7.5 in there. That's when I started to really feel it. But I wanted to hit the 10K, so I kept going. And it took me just over an hour to complete. It was 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 28.8 seconds to be exact. And the total number of meters was 10,020. So now you got the precise numbers. So I could not have done that exercise last month. I don't even think I could have done it last week. But having been 3 weeks on a proper diet, one that gets rid of food that I know beyond all doubt is harmful to me, my body is finally starting to function again. I'm getting my strength back. I can hold this cat without my arm feeling like it's going to fall off because he's so heavy. And now all I have left to do is just to continue. But I also have to wonder, because while I'm continuing, I know my body's going to repair lots of stuff, but can it repair all the damage that I inflicted by doing what they made me do with that diet? Am I ever going to get back all of the feeling in my feet that I've lost due to neuropathy now? I don't think so. Maybe some of it will return. I'm hoping my kidney function will get back to normal. But I don't know. All I know is that right now on this diet, I feel so much better, and there is no way that I'm willingly going back to eating carbs again. Oh, and you may have thought I was going to forget. I mentioned at the beginning that the people with the so-called free healthcare out there, this situation is no different for you. You might think, oh, we don't have to worry about an insurance company. But the only difference that's there is that you have a government agency that is controlling what your healthcare is instead of an insurance company. The only real way to avoid a situation where you're going to be forced to do medical activities that you disagree with, they are against your desires, is if you're the one paying 100% of the bill. That's just the sad reality of the way things are. As soon as someone else is paying for any part of your healthcare, they get to decide what they're willing to pay for and what they aren't. And you'll find that when people have the control over the purse strings, they're more than willing to force you to do things that you think and know are unhealthy in order to keep control of the cash. So with that, have a nice day.